So the first step is to create a website. So we are saving a website on 14, 15, 22nd Jan, right? And I love not giving spaces to folders, which I think you love the opposite. Isn't it? You give spaces to your folder names, but a good practice is not to use spaces in folder names and file names. You know why? White spaces, some servers do not accept spaces. They can't read a file name after the space names. Second, if you've not put, when you're putting your URLs in your web pages, if you've not speech marks and there is a space, the word will not be read. Some people, it's a good practice that when we are writing down properties and file names, we are supposed to put speech marks. But if people are not conforming to that rule, the file name wouldn't be read. So good practice is not to use spaces when you're making files. So that's your site done. File, new, and blank page, HTML, HTML5 if you like, and create. Yeah, so that's your. So the second step should be to create. Just close these files unnecessarily. Music on. Now I need to save this page. I'm going to save this page as not index. I'm saving this page as master. The reason for that is people confuse index, and when they're making changes, if they have to make a copy later on, they don't have a spare page. It's not a template, but I'm still making a master page which can be used to copy and make other pages, which in case if they've created index and other pages, they still have one page from where they can create the rest of the pages. So not having to delete the stuff. And so that's my page name. And I'm going to create file, new, a CSS file, and create. Yeah. Now, I don't want to create divs and the CSS together. Is that right? We can do that together. But I want to create my CSS first, and then I want to create my HTML. Is that all right? I mean, there's no harm in creating an HTML and CSS side by side, right? But what I've seen is that when you're doing it first time, you just miss one step and then you don't know where the div's gone. So I just want to concentrate on one file first and then work on my HTML. Yeah. So if we are doing a CSS, you want to do it with us. Yeah. I will not come down to solve a problem if you're stuck. Yeah. Just because then I won't leave what we are talking about. So if anybody wants to do it with you, don't call me for solving it. I won't come. Here, this is a CSS, and I need to save that as whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it first layout. So that's your CSS file. Yeah. Now before I go any further, I want to attach my CSS with the HTML page. But you just have to remember whether you have your CSS panel open here, that's this, and which file are you on, because you can't be on a CSS file and say I want to attach. This will work, but you will not be able to choose, right? So you have to be on your HTML and then choose this symbol which says attach style sheet, or you can right click and say CSS and use the word attach, whichever you're more comfortable with, right? So attach, and I can just choose my file name, which is this. Okay. Once I've attached, I don't need the CSS, I can just close. I can close my CSS because now whatever style I will add, it will automatically go in that style sheet. So you having to open it and get confused, there's no reason to have that open, just close it. But if you want to see your CSS anytime, you can have it to look here. Is that right? I'll show you. This is your source code, which means your HTML content, and underneath it shows all the files you are linked with. If you click here, it will anyways show you your CSS. Is that, yeah? So I need to click on here, plus. What are we making? we are making a rule, but we are using class or a tag or an ID. We're going to make a ID. So you just choose your ID here and you choose whatever word you want to use. Yeah? ID page container, and you can see it says it is going in first layout.css. Click on OK. What you would need to define for this page container? Do I need to specify anything? The box. But do I need to specify anything? Width, height, do I need to? Do I really need to? If it's 100%, if it's going to be all what you're going to be filling in, there's no need to actually define. It's just a div to put everything in place, right? But if you're going to work as in, you want to make it liquid or fluid, then what percentage do you want to use, or what, if you want to make it static, what pixel do you want to give? Is that, yeah? So if I go for a box and I can specify what, go on, what pixels did you say? That's fine, you can give and you choose. Yeah? But whenever you've given a percentage which is not 100, are you going to make sure that it is in the center, or are you going to be happy if it remains on the left hand side? So if you want to make it center, then you have to make sure that for margins you have specified, you remove the same for all, and then you say right auto and left auto. Is that right? And should I say top? Should I say anything for top? Now by default, is there a gap? There is a gap, but every browser has a different gap. Yeah? So it's good practice to say what do you want. Either make it 0 and or specify 10 so that the browser doesn't change from browser to browser. Right? So you can specify if you want to specify all of these. Thank you. There's one more file. There's one more file. Is it? Yeah. So just make sure that you've done that, right? So once we've done that, that means you've made sure you have a 95% of your container, that's your page width, and you have a top margin this much specified. Now can we specify here, can I specify type? Can I specify font? Which will affect everything. That means if I do this, I wouldn't have to do body. Then I won't have to go and specify again by using a body tag. You can actually do it here. It's up to you. How do you want to specify them? Do you want to specify them as tag wise, or do you want to just go with your IDs completely? Is that okay? So what we're saying is we can combine our font properties and colors with our IDs as well. There is no need to get another tag. It's just increase of code, but there's no requirement actually. Yeah? And once you do that, it will be inherited by all the divs inside. Yeah? So it will be a replacement of a body basically. So if you want to do that, we just specify. Good practice to say a sans serif font, but again, it's a choice and the branding concept. If people are using Times New Roman or any serif font for their whole company paperwork and marketing material, then it's just good to stick to that basically. Yeah. So should we go for, let's go this, and then font size. Like font size can be specified in EM. Yeah. Font weight, again, whether you want it bold, I mean we don't usually want bold, but this would be the color element if you want a color to choose for your text. We don't have color at the moment. We've not decided what colors do we want to use. So until unless you want to go with that recycling theme or what we were using. So apply. Now if you look at it, your CSS would have written down that code for you. Yeah. And now the next in page container, I want to create another one now, which is again ID, and you can call it as left sidebar. Is that right? Left sidebar. And so what are you going to work on percentage on that, or are you going to work on keep it pixel? Now this is where the decision starts coming. If you've kept, why did you keep 95% for the page container and now you want to go pixel in this? Tazad?
Maybe you want to do like have one side static and the other side fluid,
okay, so that's fine. So if that's the case, you should just know what are you actually going to put in your width, right? I don't think so. If the side banner will be more than 150 pixels wide or more than 200 pixels wide. So let's say 150. If you want to keep pixels and keeping pixels. What about the height? If you're going to work, you will have to create that banner, isn't it? So you would need to keep the rest of your page to that height. Does that make sense? The only difficulty with having that side banner as an image is that you will have to keep your page content to that, because you don't want empty space after that banner, does that? Right? So you would know how much height, does that? You'll have to work out how much height that is. 900, 800, whatever that is. Does that? Do you understand? Yeah? Okay, if it's a percentage, how big would it be? Do you know how big would that be?
So it was like at the beginning 95%. So this one I will take maybe 25.
Of?
Percent of 95.
How do you know it's 25%?
Of the 95. Because you don't know what 95 is. If you know that your screen is 1000 pixels, you know 95 is 950 pixels, right? But if you don't know how big is your screen, how do you know what that 95% is? And how will you make your banner fit into that? We can work on that. The only problem is that if it is lesser than than you've thought, you know, your image concept. Like let's say your image can't work on percentages, right? Image can shrink and expand on the percentages, it can. But let's say your image original size is 200 pixels wide. Is that right? And you have said here 25. I'm making you work now. It's a mathematical thing. Yeah, but your screen width was 800 pixels only. Or your screen resolution was 800 pixels. So how much would be 25%? 200? Or less? It's a quarter. Right? And your picture, how wide is your picture? 150. So you get 200, your picture is 150. Now I can't stretch the image because it will look bad. Is that right? So if I show you on the board now, this is how my area looks and my image will finish here. Is that right? Is that right? Your sidebar is this big because the next one will only start here. So what is going to happen to this empty space? Would it be nice? Was that what you wanted to do? Now this is where you will have to start thinking that if it was, then probably this should always be right aligned. The image should always be right line. So if there is a gap, people will not know because there's no boundaries, isn't it? So if there is a space this side, they can't literally see it. Yeah? But the problem would be this footer then. It will stick out of the image. Does that? Yeah? So that's why you have to know defining these concept of pixels in between, that how much portion of my website should stay fixed.
You do, for example, with percentages and put minimum width on it, so when it shrinks to 900, let's say, it doesn't.
That's an extra step, but that's when I'm saying where our CSS will become smarter. I don't want it to go below this, and I don't want it to go above this, and at the same time when I will do a CSS for a mobile, this should just get disappeared. I don't want a side panel when we are going onto a mobile. Does that do you understand? That's how we will, but we will learn. The reason I'm doing this layouts is because we will actually convert these layouts into a mobile layouts later on. Is that if you want to just stick to these layouts to make them, what changes would we need to make them mobile and responsive based on tablets, right? So what I'm saying is that it's not just, it looks like a very simple layout, and suddenly now we've started thinking what happens to this, what happens to that, right? So okay, so we've done 20. Do you want to keep it 25%, or we want to keep it? We'll keep it, and then we can convert everything into percentage and see and look at it as a second version. Does that? Yeah. 750, 150 pixels. Okay. Yes. And should I float it? I float it left because I want the right bar to go next to it, so I'll have to float it left. Yeah. Do I want to give any margins or paddings? I avoid using padding. Margins you can give if you wanted to give. But that's okay. That's my left sidebar. I add up and I say ID again, and that's my right. Which is how many pixels now?
You actually use pixels there.
I know I have used pixels there, so what should be this size now?
Which one is the right sidebar? Is it the main?
The main bar, right? 780? Or do I want to use some percentage? What do I? Okay, I'm just going to keep here. We are combining. Does that make sense now? We are combining a static and a percentage together. Does that? Yeah? So, okay, that's. Yeah? And that's floated. Should I float it right or should I float it left?
Right. So it's 2 divs. Two divs. So it's floated to the right.
It's floated to the left.
Floated to the left.
Sorry? If I float it to the right, I don't know the pixel, I don't know the width of the page, isn't it? So I don't know what is my page container going. I know I fixed this to 150 pixels, and I said 80% is the right? I don't know what pixels would it be. So if I float it to the right, what if the gap comes in between? I don't want that. So if you float it to the left, it just means that's the float, right? It doesn't have to be aligned right. Don't have to be. Just keep float left, that's it, right? Not just because it is on the right hand side, it needs to be floated right. Is that, yeah?
What if we do it 100%? If we do, well, I know.
I can't do 100% because that will be the size of the page container. There's no space for the right side panel.
So it doesn't act like a table, because when you do tables, you put 100%, it will go stretch 100% to the maximum width of the container.
No, it does that, but I don't want it to be, because if I say 100%, where is the sidebar gone? Because it's in the page container, don't forget.
They're both next to one another. It's not like it's in a, let's say, a column in a table.
Understand? Because, for example, if I do a table, I do like a fixed table, 100 pixel table, and I do a fixed side table, which is about 50 pixel, and I can put a stage.
then it is not a percentage, leave it to auto. Just leave it to auto. That means whatever space is available, just go that much. This is what
Yes,
you're trying to
yes.
say. Yeah. The concept of 100% is different from the auto. In table, 100% is, but then because when you put a column there, the first column is done. So that's the column size. It's not looking at table size. So you see the difference? In a table, one column has already been done, so it's out. If you put another table in a side column and say 100%, it's only taking the size of that column. But here we have a whole div, right? So my div is going in another div, which is page container. Now if I say 100% of the page container, that means full. So then I won't have the space for my left sidebar. But if you say auto here, then it will take the rest of the space. Yeah. Now this is the difference between a 100% and an auto. So if you want, we don't have to give 80% here. We can actually leave it auto. Yeah. So if I leave that to be that, there's no percentage, right? Just auto. That will be the same as well. That will be the same as well. Auto and doesn't. It's the same. So, but then we have to. Should we float it? Do we need to float it? We don't have to float it, right? Because nothing is going after it, so you don't really have to float it either. Just leave it like that as well. It will work. But what I'm saying is sometimes people are so used to doing it and thinking it otherwise. You keep putting the code in. Yeah. Yeah, one code for nothing. It's just there, and so that's fine. Just leave. Okay, and that's what he said. There's no need to actually writing down right sidebar. But then because our right sidebar is going to have so many things, that's why we need to have a container, right? Just a container. Okay, that's fine. Now what do we need in this? We need a ID for a footer. And what's going to be a footer? Do I need to specify anything for my footer, which is essential? I don't have to specify any width or height until unless I know exactly how much height do I want to give. But if you don't want to do that, then the only thing which is very, very essential to put is that's it. Because it needs to sit at the bottom. Yeah, it needs to sit at the bottom of the left and the right hand. That's all. So there's no. Why don't you need to give width? Because it will expand automatically to the full size of your page container. Height would be whatever paragraph you're writing inside it. It will be that. But the only thing which is very important is clear quotes. That there's no float. It goes to a new place where there's no float. Nothing else at that place. Yeah. No left float, no right float, just on its own. Is that okay? Yeah. So that's your main 4 divs which are done, which gives your page the left and the right. Now we have to go inside right and say header, navigation, graphic banner, and so on. Right? Do I really need to create that many IDs? I need to create that divs, but do I need to create that IDs?
Only if you want to differently from the other ones. If you want to make your own.
Does that make sense? I need to actually create those IDs only if I am associating any other styling element with them. Otherwise, they're just divs, isn't it? And because those divs are going to sit in the right sidebar, the width is going to be same. If you don't have a required height, that is the height I want, you actually do not need those IDs. Does that make sense? Do you understand? Why do I want to call them?
They have the tags.
This is what I'm trying to say. I've seen people doing this because that's how I want to see it. I know If I don't have any colors to give to that header or anything, why do I want to use it? Because you're going to still write down a CSS for your H1 and H2 and so on. So why am I combining that? Why am I confusing myself to create blank IDs unnecessarily? I see most of the professionals do it just because it's become a habit. But if you say, I know what I want to put in my header, at the moment I don't have the height. So makes sense? I don't know exactly what height do I want, and I want to leave the heights to the content I put in. Then actually speaking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5. They're all just simple divs, isn't it? And if they're not floated, they will actually be underneath each other. Is that right?
Yeah. So the way of floating will do is
They will automatically, because this is the width of the right sidebar, isn't it? So they can't go wider than that. They will just be this much. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't need to actually create this IDs until unless you want to combine the styling with it. Otherwise, we don't need to create this IDs. But what I'm trying to say is that I have seen people doing it. As you're just saying, they'll say width, then it's not needed. They'll say float, and it's not needed. I've just written down, it's not needed. It's just too much code, right? But let's go. And also it leaves, it makes it easier for responsive anyways. So there's no way, it'll adapt. Does that make sense? If the first thing changes, it adapts. The rest of that is going to automatically adapt what's available. Rather having to calculate. It's not going to calculate, it's going to be just automatic. Yeah? So I really don't need any more, but yes, I am going to need 3 divs, which are going to go in your 4th div. Is that right?
Yeah.
Which is this one. Right? But can that be done just for the images? Or can that be done with the help of a class? Because they're going to be same, isn't it? They're going to be the same sizes, so I can do that with a class rather than having to do it with an ID. Yeah? Are you understanding? So basically, I don't need any more IDs in my CSS pattern. Do you understand? Yeah? Okay. Now, because we have our main 4 divs, let's just create a HTML and then we'll put the rest of the divs there. Without the IDs, right? Now, because we have a basic CSS, it doesn't stop us that we can't create IDs later and give them. Does that? Do you understand? I can always create an ID later on and associate it with my div anytime I like. Yeah. So if we wanted, we will create that, but at the moment I don't think so. We need it. So I just have to say save all. Are you understanding this? Karen, do you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out why I can't get all of the images up on my screen.
Because that's the layout. And are you on the classic layout? Just change it to classic. This is the reason I don't say people work with me, because your thought gets stuck somewhere else, which is not even related. German? We followed. Is anything which you have a question?
The first time I've covered this, because I missed the last time we did one, so I'm kind of catching up.
Okay. Bobby?
Yeah, I'll follow you.
I hope I'm expecting that you'll stop me if you don't understand. You can question and stop and ask me to repeat if you haven't followed what I'm saying. Yeah. Here in my source code, that's my my HTML page. I am in my body. That's where my cursor should be. Now you can go in layout. If you don't have this insert panel, this is actually window and insert. That's your insert panel altogether, which gives you a different sub menu kind of an option. You have to be on layout, and you can click on insert div tag, right? Or you could go to insert layout objects and say div tag. Is that okay? So if I do a div tag, it says at insertion point. Now this is what is very important. Where do you want to insert that div? And we were can make a mistake, and you can make a mistake if your cursor is not at the right place. You should just be careful where your cursor is when you're saying. Now, at the moment, I am at body, and nothing else is in the body. Is that right? Yeah. So at insertion point, do I have an ID? Yes, I do have an ID. Which is giving you in a drop down, and that's a page container. And okay. Now what will happen is it will go away. Every time you would take an ID, it wouldn't be in the list because ID is supposed to be used only once. So it will, right? So that's my EM. I gave EM.
You gave 14 instead of 1.4 maybe.
I can double click and I can change that. Don't want that big. Still big. I can use for, I don't want it. This shouldn't have been big. Okay, that sounds better. Now this is just to show you that that's an automatic text which Dreamweaver writes. You'll have to delete that text to get rid of. Now, if you see my cursor is right now inside that page container, is that right? Yeah. Now you can go for another insert div tag, and we are saying add insertion point, right? But then we are sure that we are inside the page container, right? Otherwise, it's good practice. You can always choose also. You can say after start of tag, and which start of tag is page container. If I'm to make sure that I am there, if I say after start of tag div id page container, that means I'm just next to page container. I'm inside page container. Yeah. What ID are we looking for? Left sidebar. Okay, so that's your left sidebar. Yeah. I can be here and I can say insert div tag. Now here I should choose after tag, and after which tag? Left side. After that div is finished, I want this, right? So there's a difference in what it means. After start of tag, after tag, or before tag. Yeah. Here I want my right sidebar. That's my right sidebar. Obviously you can, at the moment the content might just look, I'm just deleting this content for page container because there's no content for page container. Is that right? Yeah. That's your left and that's your right, and there's an overall page container. Now what do we want next? We want to have after tag right sidebar. After right sidebar, I want to insert footer. Is that okay? So that's your footer at the bottom. Yeah. Now this is not very visual, isn't it? This is not that visual. So what you should do is go to view and go for visual aids and say CSS layout background. If you do that, it gives different colors so that you can see different colors, right? So that it just shows you what different divs are there, because they will all be differently colored. They're all different colors. Although I'm not happy with their bright colors, but still, at least it just tells you that there's there. Now in our right sidebar, we wanted how many divs? How many divs did we wanted? 5, right? Covered header, our navigation, our graphical banner, our text. And what is next? The images, sorry, right? So okay. Now what we need to do is I am going to go here and say just insert, and I'm going to say after inside what? What are we looking? Where are we putting them? Inside the right bar, right? So what we should say is after start of tag, and what? My right sidebar, right? And there's no ID and there's no class to associate so far. So just click on OK. You will see that there is a div tag there. Yeah. It doesn't start from there. It just says that hypothetically it's there, but it's not, right? And we can just keep going after this, right? Now, what will happen is here, if I say add insertion point or after tag, it won't show. Now, here is the problem. Understand? I can't insert because I don't know that div tag doesn't have a name. But doesn't mean that I can't add another div tag, but this cannot be used. You have to know where you are on your page to add tags. Yeah? Or copy paste as you're saying. I mean, there should be an empty div tag here. Here, that's where it is on my page, isn't it? So I'm going to call that as one. Is that, yeah? Or do you want me to call it header? I mean, I can put the text in called as header. Is that right? Now, only problem is that here, if I know my cursor is clicking after this div, can you, this div, right? On my code window, that's where I am right now. Is that right? Then you can just say insert div tag, will be fine. Add insertion point, add insertion point, add insertion point. Is that, yeah? Insert, layout object, div tag, add insertion point, okay. Yeah? And now can you see where it is gone? Now this is, even though you said at insertion point, this is what Dreamweaver is going to do. It starts, this is where I say that Dreamweaver starts. You have to know what you want because Dreamweaver will make errors. Do you understand? So it is, though I did have my cursor there, it still went outside footer only to write that. So this is not where I wanted. It should have actually gone navigation. That's where my navigation should be, and it should go outside after my header. Is that right? So here is where my CSS, I mean my, what do you call it? This is where I take over my code and I just copy that because I want that and I also make it more readable as well. Does that make sense? That's my div. I want more divs here. 3 more, isn't it? 1, 2, and 3. That's your graphic banner, and that's your images, and that's your is that okay? Now you would see that images have gone towards that side, right? Because my sidebar doesn't have a height. It doesn't have a content. Once it has a height, it will push the bar divs that side. But at the moment, because it doesn't have a height, that's why it's like that. Is that, do you understand this, right? Now, if you wanted a div which needs to go inside the images, is that right? Now that can be done by using a class, and you can call it as I've just call it as images, just for myself. That's what my class is, and that should be box. How much should be? Is that whatever is available? I want 3, isn't it? So I've gone 32. One less. No, I won't do that. I mean, I can do it, but I'm not doing that at the moment. I'm just saying left margin 0.5. I just want the space to be in between the 2 images. Yeah? Is that, yeah? And that's okay. And I need to do what? This is my images div. I am inside it. I can insert a div tag and say insertion point. I can have a class. I can say images. I don't have the ID. I have the class. Click. You have that first box there. Is that right? You can click again outside in that images. They won't let you click. One thing I forgot to do in that's float. If you don't have a float, they will not sit next to each other. They just have to be floated. So okay, and class images. Okay, and again here. Got 3. So that we're still gonna have slight more percentage left because I said 32. I could have done 32.5 and then say 0.5 margin. That, yeah. I'm just making it a round figure. I can go points so that you can actually calculate. But can you see 1, 2, and 3? Your divs there, and you can play around with the margins as well to put them into the right place. Is that and my CSS is all done. File. Is that, and you can see the colors now. It's giving you different colors to show that that's your. It's giving different div color classes here also because there are 3 different divs here. Is that, yeah, because if my side, okay, I'm just going to show you something. If my sidebar doesn't have a height at the moment, isn't it? If I give a height to it, left sidebar, it's the 30% of available because we never gave width. Is that right? Remember, we never gave those images. I never gave width. It was just a div. That's just a normal div. So however space is available of that 33% or 32%. Now, if I have my sidebar and I'm saying height here, and I let's say 800 pixels, so here, do you have been able to understand, right? Because that, do you know the side divs, because they have been left to auto, they will automatically take however space is available because we haven't said anything in that, and we have put them onto right sidebar. But I don't know if you know the float concept. If something is floated left and there's a left space available, it always takes all the space. It goes, isn't it, underneath or wherever the space is available. So that's what's happening. When the sidebar was smaller, it went underneath it, but because my sidebar now has a height, it will stay on that side only. Is that easier? Yeah? So, and do you also understand why what I'm trying to say is I can give widths to these. I can have them. But it is, until unless you are 100%, you've got your layout right. If I have not given them, then it's easier to write down CSS for mobiles. When you put content and you would view them in different screen sets, then it will be more understanding what percentages should I be giving rather than having one and then seeing it how it is working. Because then you've already given percentage, isn't it? Now you've not given anything. And you see them in different views and see whether it adjusts. How much does it adjust? Do you understand my point? Because when you have given a fixed sizes, it will be working around that sizes. Now it's like a blank thing, and now you would know how much calculations to work out to make it work in all different things. Yeah? So that's your layout ready. All we just have to do is put images. Right? And if you want images to shrink, if the div shrinks and if it grows, then you need to do img 100%. Even if I go it in browser, it's fine. Now this is where Dreamweaver lacks. Dreamweaver does not have a workspace, does that? No, this is not mine. This is just different. What I'm trying to say is that my screen, Dreamweaver does, although we are working on desktop, my flow is not that big. My workspace is not that big to show. So you understand? So if you need, so I don't consider Dreamweaver's looking here real. Need to go in browser because the workspace is always lesser than the screen size. It doesn't really show things that nicely. So go into browser, see it with different screen resolution. It's fine. Yeah. We can go to, but then if we go to browser, it will lose the colors. So the colors would go away. So file, save all, and review it. My browser list is not. Obviously, it wouldn't show you the right content because content of class images goes here, here, here. It's all everywhere, isn't it? Because we didn't delete. But now, okay. One thing which you should notice here is I said 32% for images, but there is a text inside it which is bigger than the 32%. Right? What do you want the div to do? You can't do a flare because you want them next to each other. No. What I'm trying to say is, like my images, that's my div, right? In this, now these three images should have actually 1, 2, and 3, isn't it? But then my probably table, my width is this much, the page, but this can't fit there. So there's something called as overflow. If you have the content which is bigger than the size of your div, what should browser do with that? And every browser has got its own setting to deal with it. Right? That's called as overflow. Some browsers clip it, they won't show, right? Some browsers will overlap. It will just expand the div to fit the content. So you have to add a property called as overflow, and what do you want to do with it? You can clip it, you can hide it, or you can give scroll bars.
Where do you have?
Onto your divs tag. Do you know class? Which I said a class. Because I know that there's going to be an image. I'm just saying for any tag there could be an overflow, but for any tag there is a property that exists which is called as overflow. Is it in box or in block? I don't know where it is, but I know the property is there. What I'm going to do is do it from here. No, you don't have to. Just wait. There, just say add property. Just write. I don't know which category does it. I don't remember. So if you just say overflow, and then it choose visible, hidden, scroll, or auto, or inherit. Yeah. If you say auto, then I don't know what it does. It actually, I think it hides. No, auto means let it be decided by the browser. But scroll will give you scroll bars. Hidden will just hide it. Will not show it you at all. And visible will just keep it on top of the other text. Whatever is, that will go in layers. The other div's content will just go beneath. Yeah. So you could add a property called as overflow to decide, and that's how you have those vertical and horizontal scroll bars on divs where people can read if there is more text inside it. Yeah, they don't. So I can just say scroll. I don't want a scroll, but still. Can you see the scroll bars? They're not much because it's still going, but it is marginally bigger. So there's no more text, but the scroll bars have come up because they're bigger than that 32% we gave. Is that, yeah, we can make it hidden, then we'll just hide. We can hide it as well. So I can say here, hidden, file, save all, and then still it's not showing the three images, isn't it? In the same place. No, it should be all right here only. I mean, I don't see a reason why. I know why, but I'm just finding it difficult to you to explain because I need to delete this because it is taking space. I can't get rid of that data. In that div, that image's word itself is taking space as well. So where should it, what it should do? Just going to delete this. I1. I2. And I3. Second. I2, I3. There's definitely something wrong here. That's how our, that's the whole percentage. So why is this not going? We have floated in, haven't we?
Yeah, you saw it over time there.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that even though we put the margins, it still can't cross the whole percentage. It should still be. I don't think so. I've made any. I can add a background color to see in the same. It doesn't have enough space to show I3. Oh no, I know why. I should have known. Should have known this. I should have. When I say 32%, 32% of what? Of 100. But which 100?
The right sidebar.
But right sidebar doesn't have a
No,
percentage.
the image results.
We never take right sidebar a measurement. You know, measurements only work if there is a measurement. Now, we are asking computer to say the right sidebar is auto, whatever space available, right? And we are saying that this div should take 32% of whatever was available. It won't. It will go back to, now this is what divs work. They go back to the last permanent value available. And that's why it's of this space. It's actually a 32% of the whole place. So that's the reason it's. So maybe when you are doing this, if you're working with percentages, this is what. So what percentage are we supposed to give?
75.
No, this is 3. So if we are imagining that 150 is around 20% or 15% of the whole screen, whatever would be available, then that's what we should be looking for, working out it from 80%. Yeah, and so 80 divided by 3, how much is that?
This will be point text.
And just don't ignore the points. So 20. Give me a guess. Do we all know how to divide? Do we all know? You all dividing thinking. Sorry. So if you just give, I mean, we'll have to work this out very carefully because you just can't leave even 1 pixel floating in the design. You just can't have that, right? So I've just given 26. Does that
works. But you
works?
probably can 7 at the top.
But now can you see that text has gone in that free space because they were just free floating dips, isn't it? So if there is a space, the text is gone there. So we could add the text has got a clear if you want to keep it always under the images.
Nicholas said that if we remove the margin,
You can give 27. Is it?
then you can't.
It is not. It depends on how much would that be the whole. You know how much of that. It's not. So what I'm saying is we'll have. This is why the percentages become difficult. Is that? You are getting my point. Get this accurate. And if your design has got, who works with design, those who are meticulous about 1 pixel also, this shouldn't, if there is an image and all that. So this makes a lot of difference to that. But yes, if it's a text, it wouldn't really, if this is a space and if I centralize this together, the whole concept goes away. So if I align this in the center of my div, it will be all right. I have not done that at the moment. I've not set my right. I can go to my right sidebar and say text align center, so all the divs go centrally if there is enough. There's a small space left. Or their alternative was that we could have just clearly said how much percentage just this sidebar is, and then work our image with a minimum and a maximum height and keep it right aligned to the side. Yeah. Do you understand? So that it keeps everything else easier to calculate. Yeah. Now I would want you to create this onto yourself. Repeat the process to create this div. So some of you already created along. I was doing it.
First one or
First one. No, I want everybody to do first one first, and then go and move on second one. Right? If you've done first one as I was doing it, then you do the third one. But go for your lunch first. It's time for your lunch. Go for your lunch. When we come back from your lunch, I want you to be working on your layout, right? Because once your layout is ready, all I have to use the content to put it. So, and the layout, the content is already there. Nothing 85, 95. And then we have right bubble. You have to remove this three. Left and right bubble is this. Just double click on which one you want. Double click. So that will work. Let's stop. That will keep the data there.